It's what we wish we knew when we were 22. Welcome to No Dumb Questions, the your favorite podcast about money, the one that really digs into financial literacy. Along with Doug Flynn, I'm Connell McShane, and want to be clear: it's what we wish we knew, Doug, about money when we were 22. Because if we started on a list of everything we wish we knew when we were 22, we'd probably have like a 24-hour podcast or something like that, right?
Definitely, definitely. And most of the time people learn this the hard way. So perhaps we can cut out some of that hard learning and pick up a few things that they can put into action right away.
I would dive in with this is that even though in the year 2024, it might not be as big of a deal to be a millionaire as it was years and years ago, right? You say, "Oh, I'm a millionaire. I don't know, never have to work again." It's still better to be a millionaire than not to be one. So, with that in mind, if you're a
Mhm.
young person listening, the, it, it's a little, it's probably, I think your takeaway on this will be it's easier than you thought to be a millionaire if you're just smart about it. And I know, Doug, you have a couple of ways to do it. So let's go.
Sure. Yeah, the formula is pretty simple. It's time plus money equals your goal. And the more time you have, the less money you need to get there. And so that's why starting in your 20s is so important. I know it's hard. There's a lot of other things we'd like to do, but something as simple as, let's say you're 20, 22 years old and you put away $5,000 per year for just 10 years,
Hmm.
and you never put another dollar away for the rest of your life. So just a 10-year run for 5,000 a year, 22 to 31 years old, at just 8% compounded. By the time you hit 67, which is the retirement age for people now, that's $1 million. Now, contrast that with someone who, let's say, they're going to party in their 20s and say, I'll come back around to it. And they start 10 years later. So they
Right.
start at 32 instead of 22. Well, they'd have to put away that $5,000 for the entire time, a whole 36 years from when they start all the way up until 67, just to get to that same $1 million. So that power of starting early, even if you don't continue. Now, of course, if you continue the whole way through, it's many millions. But either of those will get you to $1 million. And you certainly want to, as you say, have $1 million rather than not have a million
Yeah,
dollars.
so a couple of things there. So number one, like I said at the start, it's a little easier than you think. It's not as overwhelming as it sounds, but that value of starting early can't be kind of emphasized enough, because you use the word compounded, and
Right.
that's the thing. The time that you put in, it's not like you got to put away, a huge percentage of your salary, just a little bit. But if you
No,
start early and do it every year, because to your point, well, who would want to stop at 32? Because now you'll probably
exactly.
theoretically have a little bit more money to save. But again, it doesn't have to be a lot. It just has to be consistent, right?
It's just something. You have to do something. The hardest step to take is that first one and just do something. And that does become positively addicting. As you save and it compounds and you see it grow, that's the money you make while you sleep.
The
You
kind
can
of
only
addictions we want to have.
Exactly, as opposed to all the other kinds, which are usually not positive. And so the power of that is really important. And just getting started and doing something as little as it is, it builds the good habits, and it's easier to take the next step once you take that first one. It's harder to come back around in a couple of years and say, now I got to play catch up and put away a lot more money if I could just do a little bit when I began. And every year you delay, it's going to cost you a little bit more. So the key is just get started, do something, and everyone's looking for that big hit. They want to find that thing that's going to turn $1 million overnight on a small amount of money. This is not that. That's fun, and maybe that works, but 99 times out of 100, it's not going to work, or even more. This is more of a surefire way to do it. Put something small away, let it go every month, compounded. That's what gets you to your goal.
A lot of people are going to start off at that age, a job, and it's going to be a full-time job, and they'll get a salary, they'll get benefits, and there's certain benefits that come along with that, including, retirement savings. Usually, if you're working in the private sector, it's going to be a 401k plan. And I think a lot of, recent grads or young people will hear older people or just financial people like you saying, all right, max it out, max it out. Okay, but what does that mean? And it kind of plays into exactly what we were talking about in terms of starting early and having that retirement savings that you never see. It's away in an account. You get an email once a month and they give you what your balance is, but it's there. And again, the idea of a 401k and maximizing what you can get out of a 401k or another retirement plan, how
Yeah.
important is that?
I think it's really important. First of all, nearly all retirement plans, 401ks, have some element of a match if you put
Right.
some amount of money away. So the thing that you have to do is by signing up, if you don't sign up, you're not taking advantage of the free money that's being given to you. So usually the most typical match is you put away 6% of your salary and they'll match 50 cents on the dollar. So you have immediate 50% return on that money. And that's a great place to begin. Put that money in right away off your paycheck, even if you never change the percentage. As you theoretically get raises, that amount that you save will get more and more. Ideally, you want to bump it up, but maxing it out is great. But usually in your 20s, I would just recommend doing the free money, taking the free money, doing the
Yes.
match, getting that going, and letting that
Because the
work.
maxing can be overwhelming because the max limits, you can Google it and see what it is. It
Sure,
changes, goes up a little bit every year. And when you get to a certain point, probably does make sense to try to max it out, maybe, right?
it
But
does.
early on, it probably seems overwhelming to someone say, oh man, I got to pay my rent. I can't put that much in.
Exactly. And if you try to do too much and then you can't do it, the human reaction is to just shut it back down. Where if you do a little bit where it kind of works its way into your monthly cash flow and you don't miss that money, then it is easier to notch it up little by little. Again, keys to success are doing those little things and building on it, not saying I'm going to do some massive amount and then I can't make it, so I'm going to just shut it down. Those stops and starts are what kill you. Do a little bit and get it started. Very key. Take the free money. But first thing is go sign up for the retirement plan if you haven't already done it.
Right.
Find out about the match. At least get that, and then we can bump it up later on.
Yeah, those easy things that you can do and you don't realize how important they are until later on. I want to go back to something you said a minute ago, just sort of in passing, because it brings up a larger point again about people starting off in careers. You were saying about, you're talking about retirement. You said, oh, when you get a raise, and then, you make a different movement. A lot of people starting out focus on, I mean, obviously, because it's all that they know at the time. Hey, how much money am I making? What's the offer I'm getting from this company right away? And there's this, like I said, there's a salary. Maybe they'll say, oh, maybe you'll get a bonus or whatever it is. But that number, is one number. But then when you get another number after that, and sometimes early in your career, depending on what kind of industry you're in, the raises can be pretty large percentage wise. Early in your career, it can go up
Sure.
pretty fast, and they level off, I guess. But how should young people treat that? Year or two in, they get a raise. What's the rule of thumb about how to look at that money? Because now you have more money theoretically to
Right.
spend and or to save or invest.
So the key is, if first of all, if you can live on what you're making now, and there may be many more things that you want to buy, but at some point when you do get that raise, whatever it is, even if it's just the cost of living adjustment to 4%, or hopefully it's more than that, but
Yeah.
whatever it is, one of the key things that I always talk to people about are the fact that, you know what, you worked hard and you deserve that raise, but take half of it and spend it on yourself for sure. Go buy that extra thing. Take half of it. You don't have to take all of it. And you also don't have to put away all of it. But if you
Right.
just took half of it and spent it because you deserve it, you earned it, and take that other half and start putting money away, whether it's you bump up your retirement plan or you start to build some non-retirement money. You're going to need a non-retirement bucket of money for things that you want to do as well, whether it's
Sure.
buy a new car, buy a house one
Right. Because you
day.
can't access the retirement money.
Exactly. That's much longer term. And it's great to do that and certainly take the free money in the match there. But now start building some more liquid money that, you're not going to just go into it at every whim, but starts to build something more of an investment account there. And the easiest way to do that is every time you get a raise, take half for yourself and
Yeah.
put away half.
Well, that makes a lot of
Painlessly
sense
with that
because
extra money.
if you think about it, if you were living your life before you got the raise and you were getting by okay, you're going to be able to increase your standard of living. You might even be able to get a new place to live or a better car or whatever because you've already gone up, right, by 50%. Even under your rule, you're already making more money, maybe significantly more money, to thousands and thousands of money of dollars per year. And you've done the smart thing and saved. Whereas if you just spend, which is, by the way, this is why I think we called it what we wish we knew when we were 22. To me, what most people do, I don't know if I mean, I would say what most of us do, I'll say us, and maybe you can correct me if you're one of the exceptions to the rule, is we spend, almost everyone spends up to what they make, right? Like, so most people, unless they're just
Yeah.
ultra wealthy,
Right.
never feel like ridiculously wealthy. They might have a great life and they'll say, well, and they have, nice cars, nice house, all these things.
Sure.
But why? Because every time they make a little bit more money, they spend up to that
Mhm.
limit. We always go to the limit, right?
Yes.
And
Always.
your point is you can still have a great life and not quite go to the limit. You just go halfway there.
Yeah, the key, I mean, if you look at the people that don't just fall into wealth,
Yeah.
how they get there is by accumulating their wealth. Well, how are you going to do it? It's just very simply that even if you can't save a nickel right now, commit yourself that the next raise you get, you're going to take half and you're going to put away half. That just begins the cycle. And really painlessly, if you did that every time, before you know it, in a matter of years, you're saving a bunch of money out of new money you never had, and you get there much faster than trying to come back 5 years from now and start saving a large amount of money that you'd be at already just by doing a little bit every year. It's a lot easier to do a little every year and bump it up a little. That compounds, that builds, and those are those positive habits that you start to see the benefit of in pretty short order. So
And you can
that's
still have
what we
fun.
want to
You can
do.
still take trips. You could still do all of those things. Again, if you're relatively disciplined on it, there's these rules that people throw out, like this 80-10-10. Is that something you subscribe to? And if so, maybe you can explain that or other
Sure.
ways of looking at it, which kind of is similar, I think, to what we were just talking about, right? Because sometimes people like to have something in their mind like that.
Yeah. There's variations of this. You can look at, there's a 50-30-20. I like the 80-10-10 because it's much simpler. It basically says ultimately your goal is to live on 80% of what you make. Now, it's hard to start out there. You want a lot of things, you want to do a lot, but ultimately, if you start putting money away, you can get down to living on 80% of what you make. And I will tell you from doing this, the people that have amassed millions of dollars that didn't fall into it just simply did it by putting money away every month. Well, how do you do that? You have to get to that point. And if you can start to live at 80% of whatever you make, then that 20% at 10 and 10, 10 goes to savings, 10 goes to investing. And
Right.
savings is key because you're going to want to buy a house. You need to put that money away. Investing is the long term. You can oversimplify it and just make it 80-20. But at the end of the day, the goal, and you may not be able to get there tomorrow, but you can start. If you could start living on 98% and then go to 96% with the
Mhm.
goal of getting to 80% of whatever you make. And I see it. People, it doesn't matter. I see people that make an ungodly amount of money every year and they spend 110% of what they make.
Right.
And
Oh,
then
yeah.
and then I see people that don't make very much money at all and they live below what they make. And that's the key, is just living below that, putting some amount of money away. And if you can't get there tomorrow, it's hard to just go right to 20% of what you make, but you can start with something. And that's the goal. Get there. If you can at some point get to 80 cents on the dollar of
Mhm.
what you make in spending, you'll basically put away enough money to do everything you want to do in life. And that's really what this is.
Now, I can see why both people would see either side of what you just said, the either 80, and it may seem like a small difference, but if you want to go 80-20 versus 80-10-10, now to me, 80-10-10 makes more sense because it would be a reminder in my head that investing matters,
Yeah,
that
I
making
like it.
more money over time
Yep.
matters, because otherwise
10%
I
to
would just
savings.
be, yeah, I don't think I would invest as much. I think I would just say, all right, good. I'd look at month to month, oh, cool, I'm at 20, maybe at 80-20, but then I
That's
wouldn't
right.
take that next active step, say, well, what am I going to do with that other 10% of the 20? So I think that's better just to me, but I feel like to your point, maybe other people do it different ways and maybe one's not better than the other. I don't know.
The variations
Yeah.
are many, but the key is if you get into that side, and maybe you want to build up some savings and then start investing, but at some point doing both, I think is really important because again, getting that power of putting money in every month consistently, especially with the market through the ups and downs, you want to do that when you're in your 20s. Take advantage of all that volatility. That's your friend when you have 40 and 50 plus years to invest. And savings you're going to need because you're going to need a down payment. You're going to need
Sure.
things that are more short term. So that's why I like that as well. But the goal ultimately is just get to 80 cents on the dollar of what you make that you can spend on whatever you want, needs, wants, whatever, and invest and save the difference, and you will meet all your goals. That's really what happens.
Maybe a minute or two before we end on this on pitfalls. This has been a very positive podcast because we are both positive people, which is fine. And people should be optimistic. I mean, it's a great country, right? Especially
Yes.
if you're employed and you're able to save money, that's an optimistic thing to think
And
about.
Connell, if you're in your 20s, you have your whole
Oh,
investing life ahead of you, and you have the chance to make these small mistakes that don't come back later on when you
right.
have big money. So learn now, do those things, take those chances, but be smart about it. Use these best practices that many people before have made the mistake of not doing, and other people have used very successfully, and you bring the odds into your favor to doing really, really well when you have that time.
And when I say pitfalls, I don't necessarily mean things that go wrong, but in your head, you when you start investing, there are things that can happen that can kind of throw you off, and they both, I think, is how you look at it, could be problems. In other words, you go in, you invest in, and all in the market. I was talking to my daughter about this when she started looking at saving money, and you look at the market going up and down every day. So,
Mhm.
well, here it goes, S&P, it's up, and then you're saying, "Oh, this is great. I'm doing great." And then the other side of it is obviously you put money in, and the market one day goes down a few hundred points. You
Right.
say, "Oh, I can't do this." So either way, what about the psychology for young people of starting
Yeah.
off with investing and how they should look at it?
I see this a lot when people first begin. What your first experience can really make an impact on how you act later on. And
Yeah.
so, whether it's with the market or even real estate, a lot of times what trips people up is if you go in and you do if you do really, really well out the gate,
Yeah.
then you think, oh, this is easy. I got this figured out. Next thing I do, I'm going to double down. I'm going to put even more money. Or that one works. And then with real estate, sometimes they leverage. One property I did really well with. Next thing you know, they have five that they're mortgaged on. And then all of a sudden they get over their skis and the bottom falls out. And now it's much more magnified. So doing too well out the gate can make you take bigger bets than you probably should. It's more about consistency over time. That can trip you up. And the other opposite can happen. If you go in and right away have a really negative experience, you go in and the market crashes, or it's a piece of real estate and it goes down. You think, all right, this system's rigged. I can't figure this out. I'm not going to play around with the market. I'm just going to do something much more conservatively. And when you have the time on your side, that's also something you don't want to do. You want to use the time in the market over the long haul. So how you do that, it's better to have a more even experience. And so how you do that is you just use more traditional assets. You use, stocks and bonds and mutual funds and
Hmm.
things like ETFs, things like that are more consistent. They're not going to turn it into $1 million overnight, but they're also likely not going to crater into $0 overnight as well. So those are easy ways also to add consistently to those types of investments and begin more simply with those. Everyone tries to go out for these really esoteric, crazy things, long shots,
Right.
and it often doesn't work out. So start with the simple. Then once you got that down, then for sure you should go and explore these other things. But out the gate, if you do really, really well or really, really poorly, that can taint you versus
Hmm.
just having a more sort of standard experience. And so I would say if that does happen, don't let that discourage you. But the easier way or the more proven way to do it is just to begin with the more common investments and then build out from there rather than reach out because you feel you got to catch up or you want to make $1 million overnight
Right.
and it doesn't work.
It's almost like a baseball player. It's a long season, 162 games, and then you got to, there are going to be times when you're going to take some
Yes.
more chances. There'll be other times we just got to get through the game and all that kind of thing. So I think this is helpful for people. So what we wish we knew when we were 22. Doug Flynn says there are three types of people in the world: those who live at their means, those who live above their means, or those who actually those who live above their means, below their means, or at their means, right? So it's not that hard.
Correct.
But those are the three types of people. So I guess you got to decide after you listen to this, right, Doug, which one you want to be.
Yeah, I think if you live above your means, that's a recipe for disaster. You're going to end up on credit cards. That's going to be a very negatively compounding experience. If you live at your means, you can kind of get by. That's what a lot of people do.
Yeah.
But a lot has to go right for you to make it. And it doesn't really set you up for any setbacks that might happen. You might lose your job. So that's kind of the issue with living at your means. The key to the universe at some point is living below your means. All the clients that I have that have amassed the millions that didn't have it handed to them or handed down did it from accumulation and living below their means. And I always say, if you live below your means when you're in your 20s and
Yeah.
30s, you will be able to live above your means later on. If
Yeah,
you
and
live,
not way
Mhm.
below, right? Like what you were saying earlier
No,
with 80-10-10. It doesn't have to be
that's
way
all you
below.
need to do. That is all you need to do.
Simple,
So
man.
get
This is
started on that,
easy.
everybody.
It's easy. We're aspirational here. We know you're all going to be successful. So, thanks for listening today. This is no dumb questions, and to that point, there really aren't any dumb questions about these topics because there's a lot we didn't know and still don't know, and still trying to figure out. And that's why I asked Doug all these questions so I can learn something. So, if you have any questions you want to, send to Doug, especially, he's at Flynn Zito on X, formerly Twitter, and at Doug CFP on the Instagram. I'm at Connell McShane on all of social media. I think, given the calendar and where we are and where we're recording this, our October 2024. One of the things I think on people's minds is this election, and we're not going to get into the politics of it necessarily and who's going to win what state. We have other shows where we do that on, so you watch me on News Nation, by the way, from 3 to 5
Absolutely.
p.m. every day, and we get a lot of election data. But on this podcast, the next couple of episodes, we'll spend some time thinking and talking about what the election maybe means for you and for your money. So find us next time. So this was good, I feel like, right? Well, we
I
rate
think
our own
so.
podcast.
I hope so.
Yeah, no. If we don't think it's good, who will? Who will, right? All right. For Doug Flynn, I'm Connell McShane. No dumb questions. We'll see you next time.